I know.
You have to wrap up.
I know. What can I do? Right?
To get yourself a twin brother.
No, that's why you're going to. I'm going to clarify if, besides Sid, if Benny Benjamin is going to be up to coming or doing it also online. If he's
giving it online.
What?
Giving
No,
it.
doing. I want to do it both in person and online.
Okay.
Okay. So my hope, Norman Nissel had said that he thought Benny Benjamin was coming before the end of the month.
Benny Benjamin's here.
What?
Benny Benjamin's here.
He's here?
Yep.
Oh, great. That's even better. I will call him here then. I was going to call him up north because what I was going to do is I was going to get Sid started and I would go with him at the beginning. And then if Benny was going to continue, then I would come back and give the daf. I can't do both, prepare for that and prepare for this. I don't think it's physically viable. Plus, remember, I still give another shiur once a week also. All right, Wednesday after. Yeah, in heaven now is where I'll get my payments. Right?
That's called schar.
And
I think.
And that doesn't count the fact that the amount of administrative work that I have to do as chairman of the education committee.
There are people who get paid here for giving shiur.
Yeah, one or two people. Malka.
Yeah, so why don't you get?
And
I mean,
the Baruch Shul policy is that members do not get paid. Okay. The only other person besides Malka who gets paid is Rabbi Wolfowski.
So why doesn't the rabbi participate and do it? Why doesn't the education committee ask the rabbi to participate?
And do what? He teaches a shiur. He teaches his Parsha shiur
once a week.
Plus, he also teaches his Shabbos afternoon shiur. Okay.
He's supposed to be a full-time job.
It is. It is. All right, let's see where we're at.
How far did you get?
What?
How far did you get to where'd you end? The Antals, Parsang,
Parsang, yeah, that's where we stopped.
I love that. Ants that don't live near each other hate each other.
Well,
I have ants that don't like each other. Weren't you here yesterday?
Yes. It said ants on different
sides. I know. Right.
What about on the same side?
On the same side of the river, it could be problematic.
Yeah, the same side of the river is
because they might have the same odor,
Sorry?
And therefore they would not fight each other.
So only when you're across the river, the odor change.
Rabbi,
Good morning.
The same side of the river is on the opposite side. It isn't literal. At least one shot is that it's not literal. It means that they're unable to commingle. Another shot is even with the parsang, they need to be
Oh, really?
But I think it makes more sense to say it's not literal.
Okay, gentlemen, I want to get started.
It's hard Gemara today, so.
Okay. All right, I'd like to start with the learning sponsors as we get settled, and then that way we'll get right into the text this morning, okay? Okay, learning sponsors, Sue and Arnie, Year of Learning, Sue and Arnie Garlick in memory of Malcolm Pro Man and Philip Mann, and Yisrael David ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch and Beryl ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch. Yosef Meir ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Henya Rivka Pro Rosna bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch. And in memory of family murdered in the Holocaust, Harav Tzvi Hirsch ben Shlomo Yaakov, Sarah bat Ephraim, Yisrael David ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Ephraim ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Adia bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Miriam bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Pesel bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shalom ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shlomo Yaakov ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shmuel ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch. Sharon and Fred Liska, their family and many friends. In memory of her dear mom, Harriet Friedman, Edelbas Yaakov. Leslie and Gail Kaplan, in memory of their parents. Harry and Marjorie Sedell, Irving and Pearl Kaplan. Friends of Avi Gitler, Avram Meir ben Shimon, and Martha Gitler, China Bat Yeshaya. Children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren of Toby Peres, Sarah Tova Bat Yisrael Dov in her memory. Friends of Joe Wolf, Yosef ben Chaim. Charlie Gelfenstein and Sam Levine in memory of Ramona Levine, Rachel Mata Bat Asher. Friends of Nina Moinester, Nechama Asna Bat Yitzhak Aharon. Many friends of Stephen Vigdor, Lezecher Nishmat Simcha Melech Ben Meir Leib Halevi. Friends of Marcy Kurtz, in memory of her great niece, Leah Bracha. Month of Learning by Haran and Mel Haller, in memory of her mother, Malka Rachel Bas Yehuda Leib. B. Pizer, in memory of her husband, Harav Yisrael Chaim Ben David. Tova and Leo Zimmer, in memory of her mother, Henya Bas Rav Berel, and her father, Aharon Ben Yosef Mordechai. Perry and Jill Meltzer, in memory of his mother, Malka Bas Baruch, and his sister Golda Leah Bas David Halevi. Stanley Presser, in memory of his mother-in-law, Golda Bat Labor, his mother, Leah Bat Yehuda, and his wife, Ruchel Mincha Bas Moshe. Carol and Josh Sanborn, in memory of her father, Yoshua Shia ben Moshe Yehuda HaKohen. David and Sharon Carpel, in memory of his father, Zeb Moshe ben Shimon Yaakov. A week of learning by Barbara Gelendauer, in memory of her husband, Avram ben Yonatan. Sylvia Gudis, in memory of her mother, Devorah Bas Ruben Chaim. Sam Levine and Charlie Gelfenstein, in memory of Sam's parents and Charlie's in-laws, Liv Shabbat Avram Shammai, and Yechiel Michal ben Harav Alexander Ziskin. Also today is the 19th? Today is the 19th, Sid Paris, a day of learning in memory of his mother-in-law, Caleb Bat Asher Zelig, as well as Saul Goldstein and Kate Goldstein, a day of learning in memory of his father, Yisrael ben Moshe Yehuda. May the Shamas have an Aliyah, Kranker Afia Velti, Yashir Shama Talia, and Lachol B'nai Israel, a good Gebenshtia. Okay. It was, didn't see Sid and Shul this morning. So. Okay. All right, Harvey, you're there?
I'm here.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yep.
Okay. All right, gentlemen. We are going back to issues of irrigation as opposed to natural history. Okay. All right.
Are we going to become plumbers?
All right. Okay. There's a different smell between a plumber and a plumber. Just remember that now, all right?
Well,
What?
what's
What's the definition of a plumber?
where on, excuse me, where on the chicken does the plumber go?
Right? Right.
To be a plumbing contractor.
Yeah.
We never did irrigation with you.
Okay. Zion Amud Aleph, the top line. Okay, is where we're going to get started. We finished up the discussion with this issue of the ants, okay? And yeah, Zion Amud Aleph, top of the Amud, okay? Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Misteha Ilan Bedarko, Misteha Lavan, Shalod Bedarko. According to Rabbi Yehuda, one could hunt the moles and the mice. If it is in a orchard, one can do it in a regular manner. If it's in a wheat field, one cannot do it in a regular manner. Right? Tanu Rabbanan says a Braita. So we're going to clarify, okay, and to give us now a message of continuing with animals and natural history. How do we hunt, or how did they hunt, at least? Moles in particular. Okay, Tanu Rabbanan says the bright. All right, a new brighter. Ketzad Kedarko. What do we mean by doing it in the regular manner? Chofer Guma, one digs a hole. V'toleh ba mitzuda. Okay, and he puts in it some sort of a trap. Okay, Ketzad Shelo Kedarko. And how does he do it not in the normal manner? No eitz shipud. He sticks a spike or a spear of some kind. All right. Umakeh kordom, and he strikes it with a shovel or a spade. Right. Umarda ha'adama mitachteha. And as a result, he removes the earth, right, from underneath, and therefore the mound, okay, crushes and comes down on top of the animal. And then he removes it. Okay, Tanya, okay, a new brighter. Okay, all right, so Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar Omer, Kashe Amru Miste Lavan Shalo Kedarko. Okay, gentlemen. Okay, all right, when they said that in regarding to a wheat field, one cannot do it in the normal manner. Lo amru ela b'stei lavan hasmucha la'ir. We said this only in regards to a wheat field that is close to the city. Aval b'stei lavan hasmucha l'sadeh ha'ilan. But in regards to a wheat field that is in close proximity to a orchard, afilu kedarko. It could be done even in the normal manner. Shema yetz'u misteh halavan v'yacharivu et ha'ilonot. Lest the moles come out of the wheat field and they destroy the trees. Okay, because they will start eating at the roots of the trees. Okay, now we go on. New piece from our Mishnah. Umakrin et hapirtza b'moed. The Gemara Mishnah said that one could repair a breach in a wall when it is on Chol HaMoed. Okay? Ketzad makrim, how do we do this? Continues the Gemara. Rav Yosef Amar, says Rav Yosef, Bahutza Vidafna. He says we use palm branches and branches from a bay tree. Okay, so we use these branches, fronds, whatever. It's not a solid, a hard, as if it may have been from rock, but the point is at least it makes a separation and closes the breach. Okay, b'matnita tana. Okay, in a Mishnah we teach tsar b'tzror. Okay, another Mishnah teaches one can place in there a stone, ve'eno tachbatit, but one cannot plaster with plastering with the cement, so to speak.
Can't cement it.
Okay, Amar Rav Chisda, says Rav Chisda, lo shanu ela kotel hagina. This was not taught except for the reference to the wall of a garden. Aval kotel hachatzer. But if you're talking about the wall of a courtyard, right? Boneh kedarko. It is permissible to build it in the normal manner. Okay, so the Gemara says, Lema Mesayele Kotel Hagochal Rishut Harabim. This seems to support him, namely, okay, an earlier sage, right? Okay, which was Rav Chisda. Okay, if we're dealing with a wall that is leaning in the area of the public domain, soter, okay, one destroys it, okay, tears it down, uboneh kedarko, and builds it in the normal manner, mipnei hasakana, because of the danger. Hatam, says the Gemara there, kedikatani tama mipnei hasakana. There it's taught clearly in that text, in that writer, because of the danger. Ve'ika da'amre, and there are others who say, Tashma, listen to the following. Kotel hagoche reshut harabim, a wall that is leaning in the public domain. Soter uvone kedarko mipnei hasakana. One destroys it and rebuilds it in the normal manner because of the danger. Mipnei hasakana, because of the danger, yes. Shalom mipnei hasakana, lo. But if there is no danger, no. So the Gemara then says, Lema tiyuve tiyuvte de Rav Chisda. Shall we say then that this is a proof text against the view of Rav Chisda? That's the point. Amar lach Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda, however, is going to respond. And okay, Rav Chisda is going to respond and say as follows: Hatam soter uboneh. Here he says, and there, in that case, okay, what happens with the leaning of the dangerous wall? Okay, there we destroy and build. Hacha, okay, what do we do here? Boneh velo soter. We build, but we do not destroy. Hatam, right? Hatam there, when the leaning wall. Nami listor velo livnei. Okay, says the Gemara. There, shouldn't we also destroy it and not build until after the holiday? Okay, imkain mimna velo soter. Okay, what happens? We're concerned that the person might refrain and not knock it down, not destroy it. Okay, Amar Rav Ashi, says Rav Ashi, matnitin nami daika. According to Rav Ashi, our Mishnah also is exact in how it's saying it. Why? The Katani, because it teaches ubashvi'it boneh kedarko, that during the Shemitah year, one builds normally in the normal manner. So the Gemara asks, Dehecha, where is it that we're talking about? Ilema dechatzar tzrich lamema. If we're talking about a courtyard, is it even necessary to say something about it? Ela lav hagina. But isn't it not? We're talking about a garden. V'afal gav demechaze keman da'avid netiruta lepere. Despite the fact that it appears that the person is actually doing something as a protection for his fruit. In other words, it would seem that he's doing it for his fruit and not for other reasons. Shma mina. No, we learn from this that that's clearly the case, that he may do it, okay? And it's not because he's protecting the fruit, it's doing the concern for welfare.
I agree. Why would there be any question about working during Shemitah?
Okay. Why? Because the question is, one might say, if you're supposed to observe Shemitah and not do any kind of work associated with agriculture, okay, one might have thought that he was putting up or repairing this wall around his garden, and that it is for the benefit of his produce, of his vegetables, as his stuff. And therefore, one could argue theoretically, okay, even if you only want to say it's Maris Ayin, okay, that it's a problematic because you're not supposed to do any agricultural effort on Shemitah. Okay, and now the Shema Mina tells us that's not the case. The comment.
But the
Go ahead.
sakana is, but what is that?
No, go ahead, Marvin, and then
But if it's a sakana, it's moved.
especially if it's Rishus Harab. Michael, you want to make a?
I'm going to comment on the next.
Yeah, I'm going to say now, as we go into the next Mishnah, we're going to deal with a different topic entirely. Okay, I wanted Michael to be able to share a comment with us, and then we'll go into the Mishnah. Go ahead.
So in order to, the next Inyan has to do with a Mitzorah, and most of us are not very familiar with the halachas, so the Gemara won't make any sense. So just give a very quick number. There are three kinds of Mitzorah buildings, clothing articles like a leather jacket, and people. So 2 of the 3 will be referred to. With tzaras in a building, if you suspect that there's this mold, whatever on the wall is tzaras, you make an appointment with a kohen, and you make the appointment far enough out that you can clear all the things, and you get a moving company to pull everything out and put it in one of those U-Haul boxes, because anything left in the building when the Kohen says it's Tameh, itself becomes Tameh. So we see from that a certain degree of authority is granted in the Kohen. He can do it Monday, or he can wait for the moving men and do it Tuesday. Then there's tzaras in people, which is quite complicated. You see a rash. You make an appointment with a Kohen. He looks at you and he says, yup, that's probably could be tzaras. Come back in a week. Or he says, nope, it's not tzaras, it's psoriasis, go home, gesundheit. If he says it might be tzaras, that's called a muskar, you have restrictions. For the 1 week, you're not allowed to have intimate relations with your wife. But on the other hand, there's a kula, you don't have to leave town. You don't have to go chutz l'machar. At the end of the week, you have a second appointment with the Kohen, in which he again says, well, if it grows, or if it's certain changes in it, he says, yes, it's clearly tzaras, you have to leave town. But you can take your wife with you, and you're no longer, at least according to Rashi here, restricted to be with your wife. At the end, when the tzaras clears up, you make another appointment with the Kohen, and he comes and he says, yup, you're better. Or he says, no, you're not. But basically he says, yup, you're better. And now you're allowed to return to the camp, but for another 7 days, you are now restricted from your wife until you go through the elaborate re-entry procedure. So what we're going to be talking about is the implications of going to the Kohen. For most of the opinion will be that first visit where it's either confirmed that you have tzaras or you're let off the hook. And they're going to be debating that. I think that's enough to be able to understand it.
Okay, again, just to follow up real quick, remember then, there's going to be 2 concepts here. One, that the person is quarantined, okay? The second is that the person is in a status where the Kohen has clearly declared that they are Tameh.
But he can take his wife.
All right? Either way, well, I understand. Either way, number one, we need to keep in mind here the amount of responsibility and authority that the Kohen has in this situation. And number 2, okay, that there is, again, as we've seen elsewhere in the Gemara, a tension here between the fact that the person is in a situation where, okay, he has to be either separated from his wife or separated from the community. Okay, now we can go into the text. All right, okay, Matnitin says our Mishnah. Rabbi Meir Omer, okay, new topic. Ro'in et hanigaim. The Kohen is the one who examines the tzarat. But chila lahakel. Okay, so initially, all right, initially he could do it. Does the Kohen examine the person on Chol HaMoed? Is part of the issue here. That's why why it's connected here. Okay, so the implication of the Mishnah is if he's going to examine and render a statement that of a leniency for the moment, I'll only say that. That's one thing. He can go and examine him on Chol HaMoed. Aval lo lahachmir, But if it's going to be that he examines him and he's going to have to tell him, tough luck, okay? Does he wait and not tell him an answer? And that, okay, or does he decide he's not even going to go examine him initially on Chol HaMoed? Alan.
The reason you can't give him a tell him it's psoriasis because it's Yom Tov, you don't want to give him sour. But anybody, if he doesn't say, yeah, you're fine.
If he doesn't tell him, isn't he going to have tsar anyways, right?
Only the Gemara.
Right? Exactly. Right?
The Gemara says
So, I don't
exactly
understand
what you
the mayor.
said in those exact
If it's not yes, it's got to be no.
It's either up or down in this case. Either you got, all right, okay. Just like you get right. Okay, so what happens if Alola Hachmir? V'chachamim omrim. But the sages say, all right, omrim, lo lahakel v'lo lahachmir. Neither to be lenient nor to be stringent. Gentlemen, one shear, okay? Okay? Gemara, says the Gemara. Tanya, a new Braita. Rabbi Meir Omer ro'inet hanegeim lahakel. According to the Braita. Okay, it says, according to Rabbi Meir, says one can may on Chol HaMoed examine. Okay, for leniency, aval lo lahachmir, but not for stringency. Another opinion. By the way, notice in our Mishnah, we only had Chachamim versus Rabbi Meir, Labriut. Now in our Braita, we see number one, Rabbi Meir. Now we're going to get to a second opinion, Rabbi Yossi Omer, lo lahakel v'lo lahachmir. Okay? In other words, on Chol HaMoed, he should not examine him whatsoever. Okay? As we were saying, lest it give him tsar for the holiday. Okay, that might be one explanation.
And until he's examined, he's taught.
Right? She'ima taz nizkak lo lahakel, because if it's necessary to inform him of the leniency, nizkak lo af lahachmir, then you also, the Kohen has equal responsibility and authority to inform him if he is for stringency. Amar Rebbe. Now, here we're going to see a little complication. Rebbe says, Nir'in divrei Rabbi Meir b'muskar. The words of Rabbi Meir seem appropriate, says Rebbe, in somebody who has been quarantined after that first examination, and he's simply told, let's watch it for 7 days and then you'll come back.
Separate from
okay, right? V'divrei Rabbi Yossi b'muchlat. But the word, says Rebbe, of Rabbi Yossi seem clear and appropriate if the person has been clearly informed that he is tameh. In that case, fine, you can take your wife with you. Why a wife would want to have relations with her husband when he's got leprosy, I don't know. That's a separate issue. Why? Because she's going to be quarantined with him.
Yeah, I mean, no, but in those, there was no such thing as spousal rape. She had no choice.
Well, that's a separate issue. Amar Rava. But, okay. All right, gentlemen. Amar Rava, says Rava the following. Tahor. Says Rava, we're talking about a situation when, says Rava, when the person is tahor. Kuli amalo pligi, delo chazule. Everyone is in agreement that he, okay, or this way, don't disagree that he doesn't go see him. In other words, he doesn't examine him. Bahesger rishon, in terms of the first quarantine. The kuli amalo pligi de chazile. And regarding the first quarantine, after that first 7 days, are they all in agreement that you don't go see? Keep pligi. Where do they disagree? Where is their argument? Behesger sheni, he says, in regards to the question of the second quarantine.
Which is the last week.
Okay, what happens? Mar savar b'kohen talya milta. Here's what we said. One master holds that regarding the Kohen, there is this thing. In other words, he has authority. He has responsibility. V'i tahor, okay, And if he is tahor, amar le tahor, then say to him that he is tahor. Ve'itame shtik. But if he continues to be tameh after his second quarantine, just be what? He's had quarantine. He's been away. His cow comes back. Let's call it the third week. Okay. All right. So, all right, or whatever period of time. Okay.
Concluding week.
Okay. So what happens now? If he's declared tahor, okay, as we just saw, then he goes through all the purification rituals with the animals, the birds, and everything, and the korban, etc. If he's okay, so the question, right? All right. So what happens? Or do you say if you still seek Mr. Kohen that he's tameh? Do you not say anything? Okay.
What this Tana is arguing.
What did he start with? The Kohen Talia Milta. That's the premise, right?
The mayor says he
okay. Okay. So what happens? All right. So Mar Savar the Taharo O the Tamo Kativ. Okay. So another master, the other one says, no, you have to tell him whether he's tahor or tameh. Okay, why? Because of the pasuk, which says Amar Rebbe. Okay, it says Rebbe said Nir'in divrei Rabbi Yossi b'muchlat, that Rabbi Yossi's view seems to be appropriate in a person who has been clearly declared tameh. V'divrei Rabbi Meir b'muskar, and the view of Rabbi Meir seemed appropriate in regards to somebody who was in quarantine. Vahatanya ipcha, but don't we have a braita that teaches the opposite? Okay, so the Gemara tells us now Tanaihi aliba de Rebbe. We have a machloket of the Tanaim as to what Rebbe actually said. Okay, Mar Savar Savta da Alma Adifle. Okay, one master held the opinion in terms of what Rebbe said that the will of the people is preferable. He'd rather be
able to go to the Kiddush.
Right, out with in the community, included as part of the view. Umar Savar Savta de Ishto Adifale. And the other master held that the will of his wife is preferable. In other words, he'd rather be at least alone with his wife, even if he can't be and have relations, than not have to be and therefore miss out on being with the community. No. Okay. So the Gemara now says, Lamemra demuchlat mutar b'tashmish hamita. All right, here's the other issue that we raised. Is this to say that someone who has been clearly defined status as tameh is permitted to have relations? And yes, vahatanya, but isn't it taught in a braita, v'yashav michutz l'ohalo shivat yamim, that he must be outside of his tent, let's say. Okay, we're going to see that in a second. Outside of his residence, okay, 7 days. Sheyehe asur b'tashmish hamita, which would seem to imply that he's prohibited in having relations. Ve'ein ahalo ela ishto. And don't we say then that the use of the phrase here, his residence, is euphemism to imply his wife? Shenemar, because we have another pasuk that tells us, right? Lech emor lehem shuvu lachem la'ahalehem. That after Har Sinai, they were told, you can go back to your residences, which means you can go back to your wives and then have relations. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, says Rabbi Yehuda, Shivat Yamim Yisparulo. According to Rabbi Yehuda, it says you have to count for him 7 days. Namely, Yemei Sfiro v'lo yemei chaluto. We're talking about the days that his counting,
The end of his
right?
Tzara'as.
And not the days of his confirmed leprosy. Not that. Rabbi Yossi b'Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Sheva Yemei Sfiro, Kal v'chomer Yemei Chaluto. Okay, and Rabbi Yossi, son of Rabbi Yehuda, says what? The 7 days of his counting. How, right? How much more so the days of his confirmed
He's forbidden to his
leprosy.
wife for the
Found-
counting
right,
days. At
counting
the
days,
end, how much
much more so
you
continued doing those days when he is involved in confirmed leprosy. Okay. Va'amar Rabbi Chia, says Rabbi Chia as follows. Danti lifnei Rabbi. He says, I presented this, I discussed this before Rebbe. Limadatenu Rabbeinu. Okay, and he says in our, referring to Rebbe, and our master taught us, right? Yotam lo hayalo Uziyahu, ela b'yamei chaluto. That Yotam, who was the older son, okay, and who became a king at one point, was not born of Uziyahu, except during the time that he was confirmed a leper.
He was conceived.
Right.
He was a leper.
He was right. Well, implying therefore that it is permissible to have relations when one is a confirmed leper. Okay. Amarlo. Okay, he said to him, Af ani kachamarti. So that's what I said. B'mai kemiflagei. So what are they arguing about? Rabbi Yossi b'Rabbi Yehuda Savar. He's of the opinion. Gali Rachmana b'mei Sfiro. V'kol shekein b'mei Chaluto. Okay, that Hashem revealed it to him in the days of his counting, and all the more so in the days of his confirmed leprosy. Umar Savar Mai de Gali Gali, Umai de Lo Gali, Lo Gali. What was revealed, okay, and what was not revealed is not revealed. La Memra, is this to say, I'm going to phrase it, the Kohen Talia Milta, that all of this authority, responsibility is in the hands of the Kohen? And yes, says the Gemara. Vahatanya, but aren't we taught elsewhere? Ubayom harot bo, okay, on the day that he sees him, or sees it. Maybe that might be another way. Yesh yom shatoro ebo. There is a day that you see it or you see him. V'yesh yom she'iyataro ebo. And which implies, therefore, that there are also times that you don't go and examine, that you don't see it. Mikan amru. From here they said the following. Chatan shenolad bo nega. If there is a groom that discovers on a particular occasion approaching his wedding night, okay, that he has some sort of a spot, I'm going to phrase it that way. Notnim lo sheva yemei hamishte lo ulebeito lechasuto. We allow him 7 days of his partying, okay, whatever, right? The honeymoon, okay, for him, uleveito, for his household, which really refers to his wife, exactly, Marvin, uleksuto, and even for his garments.
Here it means his house.
Yeah, it means his house.
In other words, if he has a Tzaras in his house, you leave that.
It means both.
Examined that whole week.
It means both, believe
and
me.
It's clothes also. In other words, we give him a free week altogether.
Yeah, but it refers to his house, but it also refers to his wife, believe me. Okay? It refers to his wife as well. Okay? Why else does he have?
So he's allowed to be with his wife.
Right, that's the whole point. That's why they're trying to use it again as proof to say that somebody who is who may have
Kohen has the discretion not to examine.
Question. V'chein beregel notnim lo shivat yemei haregel. And thus, likewise, for the holiday, we give him the 7 days of the holiday, Divrei Rebbe Yehuda. That's the view of Rebbe Yehuda. Rebbe Omer, says Rebbe, Eino tzarich. We don't even need that, says Rebbe, right? Harehu Omer, why? Because he says, V'tziva HaKohen upanu et habayit. Why? Because we have a pasuk that clearly tells us the Kohen makes his statement, okay, and they can empty the house. In other words, they have that time to do that. Im mamtinin lo the davar harashut. If they wait for something that is
Totally.
non-obligatory, kol shekein the davar mitzvah. How much more so in a situation where you have a mitzvah orientation, mitzvah requirement there. Okay. So Gemara now asks, "My beinayu, what's the difference between them?" Okay. Amar Abaye, says Abaye, mashmaut dorshin ika beinayu. How to interpret the meaning of the psukim, says Abaye. Okay, is what is the difference between them. The Rava Amar, says Rava, says, davar harishut ika beinayu. It's the question of whether something is optional. Okay, an optional matter is between them. Right? The Rebbe Yehuda, mehatam lo gamrinan the chidushu. But says Rabbi Yehuda, from there we can't learn because there is a chiddush, a novelty here in this situation. Okay, as we begin to finish up, daha, right? Ha'etzim va'avanim ba'alma lo mitamu. Why? Because we say regarding the house, okay, the house is constructed of wood and stones, and these items do not become tameh. Vahacha mitamu. And here, however, in this case, we're saying there is the possibility of becoming tameh. And that's where we're going to stop for this morning. Okay. All right.
Thank you, Rabbi.
All right.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Take care.
Have a good day.
You too.